Alright, so this next lesson that I'm going to do is going to be on the truth about Sodom and Gomorrah. And when I say truth, I'm speaking on the notion that it was much more going on in Sodom and Gomorrah than what we hear in like the black Christian church today, where God basically destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of the homosexuality or rape that was taking place in Sodom and Gomorrah. If you do the research, you will find out that it was actually a lot deeper than what we have actually come to learn in church regarding Sodom and Gomorrah. It was not just about gay people. Even though Sodom and Gomorrah, not gonna lie, does remind me of this app called Bingo. Well, at least the gay side of it. It does remind me of that side of the app. But nonetheless, the story about the truth about Sodom and Gomorrah was that it was not just about gay people. So that's what I'm going to dive into today. I'm going to be using the Bible as well as the book of Jasher. And so here we go. The first thing I love to talk about is how Sodom and Gomorrah reminds me of the gay side of Bingo or ATL, for instance. These people will be judged. Of course, they will be upset with me, but they know what they did in the dark. In this next lesson, pay attention to how this community came together to do evil towards people. A note from John. Where Sodom once stood is now the Dead Sea. Nothing grows there. Do not harbor the hope that God will overlook all the heinous wickedness that is being accepted and the things soon to be legalized in America. We could fall as suddenly as Sodom did. I know we have all heard about Sodom and Gomorrah, but I would like to share a more detailed account of the events that actually took place in the city. It goes way deeper than just sodomy or homosexuality. These people were raping and scheming people, even visitors. Reading from the book of Jasher, which is spoken of in the Bible, you will be surprised that the world today is a very strong mixture of the world right before the Great Flood, also Sodom and Gomorrah, right before it was destroyed. To sum up the book of Jasher, as it relates to the 66 books left of the Bible that is now available, the original Bible had over 81 books. The book of Jasher gives the details of what happened in Genesis. The book of Genesis is like an overview or an outline, and books like Jubilees and Jasher, both written by Moses, in parentheses. Some say the book claims to be written by Jasher, son of Caleb, one of Moses' lieutenants, who later judged Israel at Shiloh, but the text still came from Moses nonetheless. In parentheses, give the details such as Noah preaching for 120 years to the reason why Esau was tired and desperate to eat the bloody stew. The book is valid, so if you want details on what was going on and why the Most High brought judgment, here you go. Excuse me. Alright, the book of Jasher, chapter 18. And excuse me if I sound a little nasally, sinuses. Yeah. Alright, the book of Jasher, chapter 18, verse 1. And Abraham rose and did all that God had ordered him, and he took the men of his household and those bought with his money, and he circumcised them, as the Lord had commanded him. And there was not one left whom he did not circumcise. And Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised in the flesh of their foreskin. 13 years old was Ishmael when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Verse 3. And in the third day Abraham went out of his tent and sat at the door to enjoy the heat of the sun. during the pain of his flesh. Verse 4. And the Lord appeared to him in the plain of Mamre, and sent 3 of his ministering angels to visit him. And he was sitting at the door of the tent. He lifted his eyes and saw, and lo, 3 men were coming from a distance. And he rose up and ran to meet them. And he bowed down to them and brought them into his house. And he said to them, If now I have found favor in your sight, turn in and eat a morsel of bread. And he pressed them, and they turned in, and he gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he placed them under a tree at the door of the tent. Verse 6. And Abraham ran and took a calf tender and good, and he hastened to kill it, and gave it to his servant Eliezer to dress. Verse 7. And Abraham came to Sarah into the tent, and he said to her, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes to cover the pot containing the meat. And she did so. And Abraham hastened and brought before them butter and milk, beef and mutton, and gave it before them to eat before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done. And they did eat. Verse 9. And when they had done eating, one of them said to him, I will return to thee according to the time of life, and Sarah thy wife shall have a son. Verse 10. And the men afterward departed and went their ways to the places to which they were sent. In those days all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and the whole 5 cities were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord. And they provoked the Lord with their abominations, and they strengthened in aging abominably and scornfully before the Lord, and their wickedness and crimes were in those days great before the Lord. Verse 12. And they had in their land a very extensive valley, about a half-day's walk, and in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. 13. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times in the year with their wives and children and all belonging to them, and they rejoiced there with timbrels and dances. Verse 14. And in the time of rejoicing they would all arise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and some the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. Each man saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor, and did not say a word. Verse 15. And they did so from morning to night. And they afterward returned home, each man to his house, and each woman to her tent. So they always did 4 times a year. Wait a minute now. They did this 4 times a year. My first thought is, why the man going home to the house and a woman to a tent? So wait, the woman lived in a tent? Dang. This is wild. Okay, so I'm going to flip my camera. I'm going to scroll up, flip my camera so I can show y'all what I just read. Okay, the book of Jasher. This one I just read. So if you want to pause it and read it, you can do that. And then next is my commentary. So hey, I'm sorry, I'm working with my cell phone. It's just, it's just me doing this. It's just me and my cell phone and my laptop, so, and keep in mind, I ain't asking for no money for doing this, so, you know, as far as the quality, you know, you is getting this for free, so always remember that. I'm just playing, y'all. Notice in verse 11, Sodom and Gomorrah had 5 cities like unto suburbs around it, and these cities had a valley where they grew herbage. Verse 12, this is California today, or like California today. I don't have any evidence that the herbage was weed other than their actions, and I'll get into that later. In California, there are valleys where people grow weed. Everyone knows that. You go to Cali if you want some good weed. These people were participating in paganism, which is high-level witchcraft, which is Satanism. Verse 13, this was a festival, but I say this was one big orgy that all the people participated in after they got high. Weed makes you aroused, and if one is nervous, the weed calms the nerves. Trust me, I know. Their children not only watched and learned, but they participated as well. Children watching adults have sex is a form of sacrifice, molestation. They were continuing the sin into further generations. Here, right here, is your Saturnalia, which is Christmas, or Samhain / Halloween, aka Halloween. This is why we are not to participate in these satanic festivals that have been masked over with half-truths. Verse 14, after smoking and getting to a higher level of consciousness, the men committed coveting another man's wife. They committed adultery, fornication, and don't think sodomy, bestiality, and pedophilia were not going on, because it was. It even says how virgin daughters were laid hold of, so there was some form of pedophilia going on. In fact, today in the Middle East, the imams are raping children and the women are performing bestiality. This is going on right now. Go to Tijuana, Mexico, and see what they have girls as young as 11 doing the donkeys. This is our own people doing this too. This was not about just gay people either. So straight people can't really use this story and relate it to just gay people. These people got together 4 times a year, and it was straight Woodstock. It was one big orgy with drugs from sun up to sundown, just like Woodstock, but not too much worse. Nothing is new under the sun. I don't even want to imagine all that energy being generated. Alright, so the book of Jasher, chapter 18, verse 16. Also, when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to dispose of there, the people of these cities would assemble, men, women, and children, young and old, and go to the man and take his goods by force, giving a little to each man, until there was an end to all the goods of the owner which he had brought into the land. Verse 17. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, what is this work which you have done to me? Then they would approach him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took, and taunt him, saying, I only took that little which thou didst give me. And when he heard this from them all, he would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of soul, when they would all arise and go after him, and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult. This reminds me of that app, man. Man, these people were so wicked and evil. You see, they have a system set up that had nothing to do with sexuality, really. Obviously, they had done this many times if they all knew to come together and taunt him, saying, I only took that little which thou didst give me. And when he heard this from them all, he would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of soul, when they would all arise and go after him and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult. This shows the unity in their deceit. I know whole hoods or apps or projects like this. Projects like this in my hometown, Toledo, Ohio. And I'm sure, they're all over, the United States of America. So, one, especially if you're not born into that particular set of projects and you just happen to ride over there, even to pick up someone, you will get shot. This kind of reminds me of with the ballroom scene as well. Sometimes new people are not welcomed. We do this to each other, but when them armies come, it will be a different story. We will wish that we had stuck together. I am just going through giving you different accounts of why the Most High pronounced judgment on this place. Also, I would like you to take note of the similarities between Sodom and Gomorrah, the suburb cities around the two cities, and America as a whole. America won't even take care of their own. They have billions to spend everywhere else but home. Now, I wrote this years ago, in 2014, 2015. This part of my book was already done. And now, fast forward to we in 2024, people are starting to see, man, America got money to send to Ukraine, got money to send over here, got money to send over there. But we got all these homeless people. We got this problem and this problem. So, yeah, it's the truth. They have billions to spend everywhere else but home. The book of Jasher, chapter 18, verse 18. And there was a man from the country of Elam, I think Elam is India, who was leisurely going on the road, seated upon his ass, which carried a fine mantle of diverse colors, and the mantle was bound with a cord upon the ass. Verse 19, and the man was on his journey passing through the street of Sodom when the sun set in the evening. And he remained there in order to abide during the night, but no one would let him into his house. And at that time there was in Sodom a wicked and mischievous man, one skillful to do evil, and his name was Hadad. Verse 20, and he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the street of the city, and he came to him and said, Whence comest thou, and whither dost thou go? And the man said to him, I am traveling from Hebron to Elam, where I belong, and as I passed the sun set, and no one would suffer me to enter his house, though I had bread and water, and also straw and provender for my ass, and I'm short of nothing. And Hadad answered and said to him, All that thou shalt want shall be supplied by me, but in the street thou shalt not abide all night. Verse 23, and Hadad brought him to his house, and he took off the mantle from the donkey with the cord, and brought him to his house. And he gave the donkey straw and provender, whilst the traveler ate and drank in Hadad's house, and he abode there that night. I'm going to change ass to donkey. And in the morning the traveler rose up early to continue his journey, when Hadad said to him, Wait, comfort thy heart with a morsel of bread, and then go. And the man did so. And he remained with him, and they both ate and drank together during the day, when the man rose up to go. Verse 25, and Hadad said to him, Behold, now the day is declining. Thou hadst better remain all night, that thy heart may be comforted. And he pressed him so that he tarried there all night. And on the second day he rose up early to go away. When Hadad pressed him, saying, Comfort thy heart with a morsel of bread, and then go. And he remained and ate with him also the second day. And then the man rose up to continue his journey. Verse 26, and Hadad said unto him, Behold, now the day is declining. Remain with me to comfort thy heart, and in the morning rise up early and go thy way. Verse 27, and the man would not remain, but rose and saddled his donkey. And whilst he was saddling his donkey, the wife of Hadad said to her husband, behold, this man has remained with us for 2 days, eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing. And now shall he go away from us without giving anything. And Hadad said to her, be silent. And the man saddled his donkey to go, and he asked Hadad to give him the cord and mantle to tie it up upon the donkey. And Hadad said to him, what sayest thou? And he said to him, that thou, my lord, shalt give me the cord and the mantle made with diverse colors, which thou didst conceal with thee in thy house, to take care of it. Verse 30, and Hadad answered the man, saying, this is the interpretation of thy dream. The cord which thou didst see means that thy life will be lengthened out like a cord, and having seen the mantle colored with all sorts of colors means that thou shalt have a vineyard in which thou wilt plant trees of all fruits. And the traveler answered, saying, not so, my lord, for I was awake when I gave thee the cord, and also a mantle woven with different colors, which thou didst take off that donkey to put them by for me. And Hadad answered and said, surely I have told thee the interpretation of thy dream, and it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation thereof. Verse 32, now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams, and of thee only I require 3 pieces of silver. Verse 33, and the man was provoked at the words of Hadad, and he cried bitterly, and he brought Hadad to Sirach, judge of Sodom. And the man laid his cause before Sirach, the judge, where Hadad replied, saying, it is not so, but thus the matter stands. And the judge said to the traveler, this man Hadad telleth thee truth, for he is famed in the cities for the accurate interpretations of dreams. And the man cried at the word of the judge, and he said, not so, my lord, for it was in the day that I gave him the cord and mantle which was upon the donkey, in order to put them by in his house. And they both disputed before the judge, the one saying, thus the matter was, and the other declaring otherwise. Let me scroll up so I can show y'all all that I just read. Okay, hold on. These people were wicked. You can pause this, and I'm sorry, you can pause this and read it for yourself. Thank y'all for kicking it with me, hanging out. Alright, verse 36. And Hadad said to the man, give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. I will not make any allowance, and give me the expense of the 4 meals that thou didst eat in my house. And the man said to Hadad, truly I will pay thee for what I ate in thy house. Only give me the cord and mantle which thou didst conceal in thy house. And Hadad replied before the judge and said to the man, did I not tell thee the interpretation of thy dream? The cord means that thy days shall be prolonged like a cord, and the mantle that thou wilt have a vineyard in which thou wilt plant all kinds of fruit trees. This is the proper interpretation of thy dream. Now give me the 4 pieces of silver that I require as a compensation, for I will make thee no allowance. And the man cried at the words of Hadad, and they both quarreled before the judge, and the judge gave order to his servants, who drove them rashly from the house. They went away quarreling from the judge. When the people of Sodom heard them, and they gathered about them, and they exclaimed against the stranger, and they drove him rashly from the city. And the man continued his journey upon his donkey with bitterness of soul, lamenting and weeping. And whilst he was going along, he wept at what happened to him in the corrupt city of Sodom. The whole city, including the judicial system, was corrupt, just like America today. I wanted to provide an in-depth, detailed account of what was actually going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. Most people think that it was all about homosexuality, and that was not really even a point. Have you seen it mentioned yet? I think the men of Sodom and Gomorrah really did themselves in when they were going to rape the angels and Lot that were sent by the Most High. I honestly don't think it was about if 2 of the same sex actually fell in love or got married and had a consensual relationship. I'm speaking in regards to Sodom and Gomorrah. I think the main focus here was fornication, orgies, and rape that were going on, and all the scamming that was going on. There were other minor points as well, but I just want to say to take this account and aim it at one community of people is wrong. Own your parts too. Seems like they were taking anything from clothing, linen, and fine china to booty. This was a hetero couple from what it looks like. It really didn't matter who or what. These people had devised a satanic system that included their judicial system that preyed on innocent people passing by even. Just like this one tourist and his friends on this one app.